I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 8, Episode 1 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. We are going to be releasing this on 4/14/2025, and it's the first episode of Season 8, so if you couldn't guess by Season 8, Episode 1, it is the official first episode of Season 8. So we're just going to jump right into the beer. We are drinking Lindemans Noir Dark Fruit Beer, which I'm not sure where it's from. I'm going to have to look, but it's not our normal thing to get. But this is a lambic beer. It says it's black currants, elderberries, and blueberries. And the tiny print on this that my aging eyes hopefully can read says the strong mix fermentation brew is crafted with traditional Belgian lambic and high fermentation beer. The blend then blended with dark fruit to provide an intensely fruity flavor and a deep ruby color. The taste is juicy and half-bodied thanks to the blueberries, elderberries, and black currants, resulting in a pleasant acidity and surprisingly mellow yet refreshing finish. So I don't know where Lindemans is from. I don't see that on the thing. I'm sure it says it somewhere. It does say it's part of the Belgian family brewers, so maybe it's like from overseas. That would make sense. And it is an 8.5% bottle, or 8.5 fluid ounce bottle, and an 8% beer. So there you go. What do you think, Ricky? You've drank some already.
Yeah, it's very, very good. I love the term, and this might be something other people who review beers more than I do know the term. I've heard full bodied. I haven't heard half bodied. But half body is perfect because it is a darker beer, but it's not to the extent of like a stout.
Yeah, it's not thick and creamy like a stout or anything like that.
Yeah, but it's also not light.
No, it's not.
So half bodied is a great way to think about it. Really what this tastes like to me is if you had like a true dark chocolate, like, 98% cacao, barely even any sugar in it. And you put that on like frozen fruit. Like, they sell those now, those like dipped fruits and all that are so popular. It's like that. There's no sweetness from the chocolate side of it, from the dark side of it. It's only the sweetness from the fruit.
Yeah, and it's not like your traditional strawberry. It's like if they dipped like a raspberry.
Exactly. I was going to say it's very raspberry-like. I know there's no raspberries in it, but I don't pick up a lot of just individual blueberry, and I don't really eat elderberry, so I don't really know.
It's definitely the elderberry because if you think about the wine that we'll talk about later, Queen Anne's Rose that I made, the mead, that has elderberry and hibiscus in it, and there's some of the flavors of that wine.
Gotcha. This. Yeah, no, this is phenomenal. It's sweet, it's smooth, but it's not too sweet. It's not like that kind of cloyingly sweet.
No,
you got those dark flavors. I actually probably would like it maybe a little bit more if it was like, I guess what we're calling full bodied, if a little bit more of those notes came out. But overall, it's a phenomenal fruit beer.
I'm gonna let it sit and rest for a little bit, and as it warms up, I'm gonna see if it like brings out some of those notes, because as we've discovered, a warmer beer can make for different tasting. So just based off of what I'm drinking right here, it was like $15 at Wegmans, I think. So like,
okay.
At that price point, I'd buy a 4-pack of these. It's really good. It's a smaller bottle of beer, but it's like one of those things I could have like sitting out on the back porch on a evening, like during the spring or like winter, even by a fire, and like just enjoy. It's not quite like a summer sipping beer. It's not like a shandy.
Yeah, it's a little too, I think, dark for that. But in all honesty, it is a really good like after dinner beer. Like, I drink this in the same way that like when I have dinner, I don't for my diet most of the time, but I really want like a little taste of something sweet.
Right.
And instead of like having a little bit of fruit or like one like scoop of ice cream or something like that, this would be like a really good way to have like an after dinner drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Something like this, I mean, it's a strong beer, but it's a great beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you like fruit beers, lambics, anything like that, this is like a perfect beer to get. I think I can't think of anything else to say about it. It's just really good. It's like it is one of those like beers that you get and you drink it and you're like, man, this is really good. The description they give on it nails it. You know, they're really good. I'll have to try some of their other beers. I'll grab them for the podcast.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's at Wegmans, which is where I get my groceries, and Wegmans will deliver their alcohol. So now that's a little dangerous for me. There might be a pack of this in my next grocery order.
Yeah, that's. I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy another pack too next time I go. It's one of there's a reason they keep it near the cheese. Oh, I bet this would be so good with cheese. Yeah, yeah. So that's going to have to be. That's going to have to happen. So, as I said before, we're back. We've been off since November. So that's 4 months, like a quarter of a year. We did a lot of stuff during that time period. A lot of things have happened. Work's been weird. The world has gone crazy. LLMs have continued to take over everything. That's the only thing that's kind of constant from last season. Well, I guess GPUs not being available also.
Those might go hand in hand.
Yeah. That and it's skyrocketing prices of goods. To get to America. So we're back. We've done a bunch of stuff. I brewed a ton over Christmas, and I think I'd mentioned that I was making a bunch of alcohol. So I made about 30 gallons of wine, and then 30 gallons of beer. So roughly somewhere in there. It was mead and wine, and then beer. Yeah. I haven't made any cider, and they got bottled at various times, but I've got a lot. I'm over full with. I can't brew anymore.
Yeah.
I'm so full. I could brew like 1 2-gallon thing of beer, like a ginger beer or a cider or something like that. But I can't do anything else. That's just not able to be happening. I've done a bunch of experiments with LLMs. We'll talk about that later. Have you done anything with any LLMs or anything like that?
Yeah, I've done some like AI reviews and some stuff like that. I'd play more around with image stuff, so I feel like that Stable Diffusion instance and stuff like that. But yeah, I've played with a couple of them.
Okay, so we'll talk about this later, but you might want to set up Olama on even like your oldest system and just download DeepSeek R1. You can run that locally in your house. You can tie it up to your Home Assistant instance if you want to, which we'll probably also talk about later this season, because I've started trying to replace Google in my home with Home Assistant. And yeah, man, there's some like really exciting, interesting things coming around in that space, and it's not expensive to do. It's like cheaper than just about everything else. So there is some expense there, just not as expensive. So yeah, running Home Assistant, getting things like that set up, pretty awesome. What else have you been doing over the break over the last 4 months?
Technology-wise, it's been a lot of playing with AI. It's been a lot of getting back into gaming a little bit more. So I think we've talked about maybe once before a long time ago that there's like an open source Morrowind engine where they've like redone the whole game.
Open Morrowind.
Yeah, and they've recently they have through I'd have to look up the tool. We can maybe put it in the link notes if people care about it. Auto installers for like their mod lists. So now you can get like a 580 mod Morrowind playthrough going in just like an hour or two. Yeah, and most of that time it's just the downloading, compiling, and stuff like that. Yep. It's not quite one click like Wabbajack is, but it's getting pretty close. It's like 10 CLI commands.
Yeah, and you can. I know that they have a wrapper for Android for OpenMW, and you can put that. That should be one of our topics, definitely. Like how like we've kind of done this, but like you can put that on like a gaming handheld.
Yeah.
and like download and like it'll run all that stuff because it's just such an older game,
Mm-hmm.
but it's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and revisit Morrowind this year. I've not done that. I was too busy with Baldur's Gate 3
Yep.
and Dave the Diver.
Like Dave Diver's pretty big.
Yep. Um, yeah, so lots of gaming, lots of AI, lots of brewing. Um, I haven't really, well, okay, so I've actually made a couple of iPods. I've gotten into doing some, and I'm really bad at it. So this is
Mm-hmm.
not me saying, oh, I'm an expert at this now. But I've gotten into doing some projects with electronics and doing soldering and stuff like that. So that's been kind of fun, messing around with that stuff. I don't know if we'll talk about it on the podcast. I mean, I repair old iPods and fix them up for friends and stuff like that, and that's a fun thing. It's a great thing to do. I don't really have like a whole lot to say about that other people haven't already said.
Mm-hmm.
They do it better. Although I did make a really cool one. I'll show you a picture of it or send it to you or something. I made a really cool one for a friend of mine that just they were like, I found two iPods and I've got one that's in pieces. Do you think you could repair it? I was like, no, okay, let me take a look at it.
Yeah.
And they asked me to look at the other one because it wasn't charged up. So I charged both. Well, the one that was put together, it works fine. It's beautiful, great.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a little dinged up because clearly it was used, but
Yeah.
it's looks great and works functionally fine. All the songs and everything were on there. The
Mm-hmm.
battery still charges very well and holds a charge for hours and stuff like that. So then I started looking at the other one, put that together with some back that I had just like sitting around, and I was like, oh yeah, this thing's perfectly in good order. It's a fifth gen iPod. It's great. Um, I can fix this. So I asked them what parts they want, and they were like, get an SSD, put this in it, put that in it. And I was like, okay, well, I normally do a micro SD card, but sure, an SSD is fine because micro SD cards, iPods don't put a lot of wear and tear necessarily on the micro SD card because really
Mm-hmm.
the write is what's the problem for
Yeah.
micro SDs, not necessarily the read.
Yeah.
And so, like I was just kind of like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. That thing, I got a clear, transparent faceplate that's
Mm-hmm.
like this ruby red, like kind of fireburst color. It's got like a click wheel that's the same and a center button. So this thing looks awesome on the front, but it's got this multicolored, like rainbow color back to it that just
Mm-hmm.
like matches that front color really well. And like when I put it together, after I broke the headphone ribbon, there's like a ribbon inside of it
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
connects the headphone jack and the lock button on it. I broke that because it fell out of my lap.
Oh
I
yeah.
put
Yeah.
it back together. I had to like scramble to find another one out of all my like used parts. I think I
Mm-hmm.
found my old iPod, the one that I turned into a 2 terabyte
Mm-hmm.
iPod. I found that one and the back for it that I'd replaced, and the ribbon on it was still good. So I had to like take. And there's such a pain in the butt to take.
Oh
it
yeah.
out. Like I
Yeah.
always buy them with the thing in
Yeah. Like
because
even the ribbons in laptops back when those were more common were always a pain in the butt.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's you can do it. It's just the tiny screws and like you got to kind of like
Mm-hmm.
finagle a precision screwdriver in a certain way. You can't do it with anything else. But I got it done. It's put together. Gave it to them yesterday, and it works beautifully. They were very happy with it. It looks really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll probably never use it.
But at least they got it.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, I mean, I put a Rockbox iPod together for you for Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could talk about that probably this season,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the difference between like the stock OS and Rockbox, and like kind
Mm-hmm.
of your experience with that, like as you used it. Well, I've got a ton of gaming handhelds that I got over the last year and Christmas, just because they like released a bunch of them. I'm probably not going to buy any for a while, but I mean, there would have to be a significant uplift in the industry or something like that.
Yeah.
Plays more than PS2, kind of thing. Because I've got all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff to this point, but these little handhelds are pretty sick. They're pretty awesome. I still my favorite hasn't changed since it's come out.
Mm-hmm.
The Miu Mini Plus, but we're going to talk some of the Miu stuff. I've got some Ambernick stuff and everything like that. So um, that's pretty cool. And I mean, the last thing that we're going to talk about today is the tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
Look, politics aside, you can believe and be in whatever camp you want to be. Tariffs are good or bad. The fact of the matter is, regardless of whatever, they're hurting for right now. Our, us being able to get components and stuff like that for things that we need to make, PCs, things that we need to be able to repair, electronics, things like that, because that all comes from overseas at this point. None of it's made in America. There might be a stockpile of it in America, but it's not made in America.
Yeah, and we're still a couple of years off from those chip factories being done.
Right. And even if they were done, component factories aren't here. So we don't have assembly processes and plants for ribbon cables for iPods, for instance, like we were just talking about. We don't have metal stamping and the molds for those iPods either. So if we're just talking about just that, that goes from being like a $10 part to being like a $40 part.
Yeah.
If it moves to America. If it doesn't, the tariffs are going to make it go from like a $30 part to a $50 part, or a $40 part to a $50 part, So, yeah, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, the tariff plays are interesting. I don't think, except for maybe some of the ones with China, any of them long-term stick around. Yeah, I've been saying that for a couple months, and it was really great because we had some coworkers from overseas over this last week, and literally the day before Trump pulled the tariffs off, we were there and said, yeah, he's maybe they'll last a day or two, because all the other ones have. It's why we keep pulling them back, is that we're just going through countries that we have a trade deficit with. Like, and that's the whole thing with Canada. Like, we don't really need we don't care about fentanyl in Canada. There's very little of it. But they're about 1% of our international trade. And we're about, I think it was 23% of theirs. There's just a massive disparity. So we can say, look, let's play the tariff game. I can survive my 30% on my 1% compared to your 30% on your 23%.
Right.
And it's why these countries keep negotiating, because they kind of have to. We're forcing them to, using our economic power. And it's just Trump trying to get whatever it is he wants from each country.
Yeah.
And it's short term, sure, he's getting a lot of the stuff he wants. I think long term, we are playing a game with our soft power.
Yeah.
Canada is not going to want to continue to be 23% of their trade with the U.S. if, when they get themselves in that position, we abuse it.
Right.
So, I think this is very much a short-term play on the local, trying to fix local economy issues, hoping it doesn't long-term impact our international, like our like reserve currency status and stuff like that. So we'll just have to see where that goes. But it's, again, apart from like China and maybe one or two other countries, I don't expect we see anything set for a long time. But you're right, day-to-day people. I mean, it's your component goes up right now regardless while things are being negotiated.
Yeah, and people are stopping shipping stuff to us. So the next year is just going to be, the next 3 years are going to be interesting, and then we'll see, because that could change as to whether or not there'll be another 8 years.
Yeah, it changes a lot on our local economy. It's changing the international stage a lot. Like, I was talking to a guy who his company does a lot of production in Mexico, and they used to ship from Mexico to the U.S. But when the tariff talks were happening, like, okay, well, we potentially can't ship from Mexico to the U.S. So they're not going to build in the U.S. They're going to build in Mexico. They're going to ship it to Vietnam. Vietnam's going to do the assembly. And then, because there wasn't there were tariff talks with Vietnam at that time, they're going to go from Vietnam to the U.S.
Yeah.
So, like, regardless of, like, if it doesn't impact us at all, it is still changing global supply chains. So that's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy time. Like, no matter what, whether it's going to affect us in some way, it's going to affect the average person in some way. It's a lot of gambling with, like, our ability to have and do things. And I mean, there's some, not talking about politics, but there's some other things that seem to be at play here, about alliances and things like that. So, like, it is going to be a really weird time for PC tinkering,
yeah,
maker type
it
people.
is going to be weird, and I think, the first Trump presidency was weird, and not on like a political level. It's just that Trump runs his presidency like a CEO.
Yeah.
And there's not something inherently wrong with that. But it's not how politics is generally done. It's generally not how it's portrayed. And I'll say, the stuff he's doing now as a president happens all the time between CEOs.
Right.
Two companies want to like collab on something. They're both trying to get the upper end of that deal,
Yep.
No, the hostile takeovers of each other and stuff like that, reducing someone's assets. So, even if it reduces your assets, it's worse for them in the long run. So you
Right.
come out ahead and like all this stuff. And it's just all in the public eye when it generally isn't. And it also generally doesn't affect like people.
Right.
And I think that's the scary part of it is that, a CEO messes up somewhere, your company takes a little bit of a hit. Maybe you lay off 5% of your employees, and that sucks. But they get their severance and they move on. But you're not. I guess they are laying off government employees. But the closer analogy would be, hey, we're gonna shake up Medicare, and then some people fall through the crack and they can't get their medicine anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's a much more life impacting thing than I got 6 months severance and I got to go find a new job. You don't get your medicine 1 month. That could just be it. So I think that's the thing we need to keep in mind when we look through it is that like the changes are not necessarily themselves bad because we don't know how they're going to be in the long term. It's our decisions getting made so fast. There's going to inevitably be people caught in the crossfire.
Well, that's already happened. So yeah, it's gonna, and that's kind of the topic right here. It's like, play your games, whatever. You're hurting people on the ground ultimately, and kind of your job is not to. You're supposed to take care of those people. At a bigger scale, like not the individual, but if you're hurting people, you're hurting people.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind like what your impact to the community is in the short term, even if you're trying to make long-term plays.
So I returned back to this beer. It is still cold, but it is warmer. And I would be interested to see what you think about it.
I'll say like, even though the bit of the chocolate notes that were in it are starting to go away, a little bit juicier though.
Yeah,
it's like a little bit fruitier.
It brought out those fruit notes. So like if you wanted this to be more like a fruit beer instead of like a lambic, which it's still a lambic, right? But if you wanted it to be more like a fruit beer, you could let it warm up. Get about 40%, 40 degrees, something like that, and it would be, or 50 degrees. I don't know why I said 40. Let it get about 50 degrees, and it would be more of a fruit beer type thing, which I think is really fantastic. It brings out a lot of those great flavors.
Oh, 100%. We might get to play around with that in my place sometime. I've got a standing freezer that I'm going to take out of freezer mode because I don't really need the extra freezer space anymore. And I'm going to, because I think it can go up to something like 55 degrees. So I'm going to turn it into like a project fridge. So, I might make some cheeses and stuff like that and like do some long store stuff. But it would be perfect for like also putting some drinks in that you don't want served at a fridge as normal, like 34, 35.
Yeah. I think it's normally 40, isn't it? Like 42?
Mine's 36, I think.
36, okay.
But you can change it.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's true. Would be a good, fun, like, play on the temperature of the fridge and like how it affects the drink flavor, especially like a beer or a kombucha or something like that. So, or a mead, that would also be cool. Well, do you have anything else you want to say about any of the topics that we had this time?
No, I think we did a good little intro there.
Okay, cool. Well, then, this has been Season 8, Episode 1 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast, slated to come out on 4/14/2025. And thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.